For 3 years, I've been Don Vito Russo's wife. But our marriage was nothing but a transaction, and my heart was the price. I kept a record, deducting points every time he chose his first love, Sofia, instead of me. When the total score reached 0, I would be free. He abandoned me on the side of the road and rushed to Sofia's side, only to be hit by a car. When I woke up in the emergency room, covered in blood, I heard a nurse tell me I was 2 months pregnant. A sliver of hope ignited in my heart. But just as the doctors were doing their best to save me, they connected me to my husband on speakerphone. His voice was cold and unyielding. "Isabella's condition is critical," he commanded. "Not a single drop of the reserve blood is to be used until she is out of danger. I don't care who else needs this blood." I lost my child, our child sacrificed by her own father. Later I learned Sofia had only suffered minor injuries. The bleeding was just a precautionary measure. That faint glimmer of hope was extinguished. Something deep within me snapped, cleanly and endlessly. The debt was paid. Alone in the silence, I wrote the final entry in the ledger, resetting the dividing line. I signed the divorce papers I had prepared long ago. He placed the agreement on his desk and then left his life forever. Chapter 1, Ella's Perspective. After the debts were paid off, I was free. I flipped through the first entry in that small, black leather, bound notebook, 100 points. This was my assessment of my marriage to Dante Morley. Every betrayal, every humiliation, every time he chose her over me, I deducted points from his score. The heavy oak door to his study creaked open. Dante stood there, dressed in a custom-made suit, his presence as imposing as a giant, seemingly drawing the air to his side. He was the undisputed boss of the Chicago mob. With a flick of his wrist, he could command thousands of troops. His melancholic aura had captivated me since I was a young girl. And he was my husband. His eyes, as deep as a storm cloud, fell on the book in my hands. "What is that?" His voice was low and cold, exactly the same tone he used when sending soldiers to their deaths. I handed him the book. He took it, his long, scarred fingers lightly brushing against mine. I couldn't help but shiver. A chill ran up my arm. He quickly flipped through the pages, his gaze lingering on the entries, his expression unreadable. Touch. He missed our first wedding anniversary. A public anniversary, and flew to Sofia's side instead. It was a huge disgrace to the entire family. He abandoned me on a desolate highway, leaving only a soldier behind because Sofia was pretending to be threatened by a hostile group. He was distracted by her phone call and lost the Moretti family heirloom wedding ring. It was an ominous sign for our family. He read a few pages, a barely perceptible smirk playing on his lips. He handed the book back to me, the cold swayed against my skin. "Nora, don't bring your personal belongings into my study. This is where I handle family matters." My gaze swept across the room. It was practically a museum dedicated to another woman, a priceless Ming Dynasty vase, bought for Sofia because she had seen it in a magazine. A framed photograph of her standing on the deck of his yacht, laughing heartily. On his desk sat a small silver pendant. I knew it contained her photograph. I was just one of his many possessions, and an unwanted barter item at that. The security phone on his desk rang, its sound shrill and urgent. He answered, his back to me. "What is that?" A hoarse voice came from the other end, one of his leaders. "Boss, the warehouse on Surmark Street is on fire. A gift from O'Malley's gang, Sofia. She was supposed to be there tonight to inventory the stock." Dante froze. He turned, a cold, terrifying rage on his face. He grabbed the keys from the table, his movements swift and brutal. He didn't even glance at me before storming out. A desperate, foolish hope compelled me to follow. I hailed a taxi and watched his armored limousine speed through a dozen red lights, tearing through the city like a black missile. The warehouse burst into flames, orange flames slicing through the night sky. Firefighters and his own men shouted, forming a human wall to block his advance. "Too dangerous, boss. You can't go in." Dante shoved them aside, turning to his second. In command, his deep growl drowning out the chaos. "If Sofia doesn't leave, I'll raze this city to the ground." Then he vanished, consumed by flames. His leaders surrounded me, their expressions a mixture of pity and contempt. "He has always treated her like this," one of them said. not with a hint of bitterness. He painstakingly built half a business empire just to win her back. Another chuckled. She is his queen, always has been. They're rubbing salt into my wounds, reminding me of my place. I am just a placeholder wife, a consolation prize. I remember the day he proposed to my father, his most trusted advisor. My father was terminally ill then. Dante had just learned that his first love, and his only true love, Sophia, had married a commoner, an outsider. A godfather needs a wife. My father made Dante promise to marry my daughter and protect her. This is a solemn contract. And I, naively, believed it to be love. Now I understand the truth. He married me because his queen abdicated. After many years, a figure emerged from the flames. It was Dante. He carried the unconscious Sophia in his armored suit, smoke rising from his clothes, his face covered in soot. He gently placed her on a stretcher, then collapsed himself. At the hospital, a fortress controlled by the Moretti family, the doctor reported his condition. Don's back and arms are severely burned, but he'll be fine. Mrs. Vance is perfectly fine too, just inhaled a little smoke. His men tried to comfort me, constantly mentioning the Moretti name, their power and wealth, as if money could mend a broken heart. I took my leave, this courteous, flawless wife of Don, until her last breath, back in the cold, silent atmosphere of the Moretti estate. I entered the study, which felt more like her room than his. I opened the ledger. My hand was very steady when I wrote the new record below the previous one. Deduct 5 points the next morning. I met with a lawyer. His office was a cramped, windowless room with no name on the door, and the man himself looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. For a divorce, taking on the Moretti family wasn't just bad career move. It was professional suicide. I want you to draft a divorce petition, I said, my voice even, and a non-disclosure agreement. I want nothing from him. I just want to be free. He swallowed hard. Mrs. Moretti, are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. I left his office and drove to the hospital. The soup I'd had the cocock prepare felt heavy in my hands, a useless offering. Dante's private suite was guarded by 2 of his most loyal men. They nodded at me, their faces grim, and let me pass. The scene inside stole the air from my lungs. Isabella was perched on the edge of his bed, fussing with the bandages. Oh, port. She was clumsy, making him wince. Dante, I am so sorry, she cried, plump tears tracing paths down her perfect cheeks. Does it hurt terribly? It is nothing, he soothed, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. He cat her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckles. The doctor said. She sniffled. He said the burns are deep. You might have permanent nerve damage, a weakness a Don can't afford to show. It doesn't matter, Dante said, his eyes locked on her. I was already planning to step back from public operations. It has nothing to do with the fire. He paused, his gaze turning distant. There was this legitimate business I wanted to start. Years ago, an architectural firm. You once said you admired a man who ran one, I thought. I thought you remembered. Isabella's breath hitched. She fell into his arms, burying her face in his uninjured shoulder. Oh, Dante. He held her, his good arm wrapping around her, holding her tight. For a moment, he closed his eyes, a look of profound, agonizing peace in his face. The soup container slipped from my numb fingers, clattering to the floor. Neither of them so much as flinched. I backed away, a ghost in my own marriage, and slipped out of the room unseen. At the hospital entrance, a group of Dante's most trusted soldiers stopped me. They looked grave, Mrs. Moretti, the one in charge said, his voice low and formal. He handed me a sealed manila envelope. The Don had standing orders, in the event he was incapacitated. This was to be delivered to you, immediately. Of course, I murmured. I waited until I was back in my car to open it. It was a detailed strategic plan, a complete restructuring of the Moretti empire. It outlined a shift toward legitimate businesses, with a new massive investment in a high-end architectural design and construction firm. It was brilliant, ruthless, and visionary. And it was all contingent on one thing. I read the final line of the executive summary, the words blurring through my tears. With the return of my true north, the final phase of the Moretti revitalization can now commence. His true north, Safia, I finally understood. His empire, his ambition, his entire world was built for her. I had never even been on the map. I am leaving him. The words felt foreign on my tongue, spoken over the phone to my CPLD architecture professor. She didn't sound surprised. Good, was all she said. Your portfolio is still the most brilliant I've ever seen. The world needs your buildings, Alara. Where will you go? Somewhere new, I said. A spark of something I hadn't felt in year igniting in the hollow of my chest. I am starting my own firm. In the days that followed, I turned an unused wing of the sprawling cold estate into a vibrant studio. I unrolled my old blueprints, the passion I had sacrificed to be the perfect Don's wife flooding back into me. The scent of graphite and paper was like coming home. On our third wedding anniversary, a date the entire Chicago outfit acknowledged, Dante found me there, sketching. My world narrowed to the page. He stood in the doorway for a long time, watching me. I am relaunching my career, I told him without looking up. I won't be available to host your business dinners anymore. A flicker of something annoyance, surprise, crossed his face. Of course, he said, the support in his voice hollow. It is good for you to have a hobby. The word wasn't just a dismissal, it was a pat on the head. I almost asked him then if he'd support a divorce, but his phone rang. He disappeared into his study. I heard her voice, sharp and demanding, even through the thick oak door. That evening, he surprised me. Get dressed, he said. We're going to dinner. A rare gesture, a peace offering for my hobby, perhaps. He dropped me at the entrance of a lavish new restaurant, a Moretti acquisition, while he went to park his car. The valet rushed to open my due when Dante returned. He was holding a small, elegantly wrapped designer gift box and a massive bouquet of pink roses. A wild, foolish hope flared to life in my chest. He handed them to me. Happy anniversary, he murmured, his eyes unreadable. Just then, Sophia appeared at the restaurant's entrance, a vision in red. She sauntered toward Dante, her hand landing possessively on his arm. Dante, darling, you came. She turned to me, her smile pure saccharine. You must be Alara. Dante talks so much about his arrangement. Before I could react, Dante took the gift box from my hands and gave it to Isabella. A small token for your grand opening, he said, his voice softer than I had ever heard it. Then, he plucked the bouquet from my grasp. And flowers for the new proprietress. Isabella gasped with delight, burying her face in the roses. Oh, Dante, you remembered. This specific florist, the exact shade of pink I love. The hope that had flared in my chest didn't just die. It was doused in gasoline and set ablaze. The gifts, the dinner, the entire evening, it was all for her. I was just the delivery service. Isabella led Dante on a tour of her restaurant, her voice laced with a silken triumph. It is exactly as I described it to you. All those years ago, the velvet booths, the gold accents, every detail. A place where danger and beauty can drink together. Dante ear-sighted, his voice a low rumble, words she'd spoken a lifetime ago. Yet he had them etched in his memory. A delicate hand flew to her chest in feigned surprise. You remembered, he smiled, a true, unguarded smile I hadn't seen in years. Does your offer to make me a partner still stand? A dawn is too important for that, she demurred, her eyes glittering with a predatory light. I followed them like a shadow, a weight settling so heavily in my chest it stole my breath. In the private dining room, Dante ordered for the table without a glance at the menu. Pan-seared scallops, truffle risotto, a bottle of vintage Barolo, all of Isabella's favorites. You know me so well, she purred. Then her gaze flickered to me, a calculated performance of pity that felt more like a dismissal. Dante, let your wife choose something. We should be good hosts. He slid a menu across the table to me. I don't know what you like. Order for yourself. 3 years of marriage, and he didn't know if I preferred fish or steak. I felt erased, as if the last 3 years of my life had been written in invisible inkex. Excuse me, I mumbled. Pushing my chair back and fleeing to the restroom, Isabella followed me. She cornered me by the marble sinks, her reflection in the mirror sharp and predatory. He is only with you out of duty to your father, she whispered, her voice a silken, venomous thread. A vow of honor. It has nothing to do with love. A real woman knows when to walk away. Suddenly, a deep groaning sound echoed from above. The massive crystal chandelier hanging over our heads swayed violently, its supports giving way. Sabotage. A message from a rival family, it plummeted towards us. Dante moved like lightning, a predator reacting to a threat. In a blur of motion, he crossed the room, yanked Sophia into his arms, and shielded her with his body as the world exploded in a shower of glass and metal. I was thrown sideways by the impact. A searing pain shot through off my side, looked down and saw red blooming across my dress. The world went black. I woke up in a sterile hospital room. I was alone. The pain in my side was a dull, throbbing ache. Wincing, I reached for my purse on the nightstand, my fingers fumbling for the black ledger inside. I subtracted 10 points. A nurse bustled in, her eyes kind and curious, falling on the book. "What is this, dear?" she asked, her voice soft. "A marriage ledger," I whispered, my voice a hoarse rasp. "When it reaches 0, I am getting a divorce. Only 10 points left." The door opened. Dante stood there, his expression unreadable, his suit immaculate. He'd heard me. "What 10 points?" The sterile hum of the hospital room pressed in on me like a vice, the beeps of monitors syncing with the erratic thud of my heart. Dante's question hung in the air, heavy and accusatory, his dark eyes boring into mine with that unyielding intensity that had once made my knees weak. Now, it only fueled the cold fire building in my chest. "Faye, what 10 points?" Asterisk, as if he hadn't just shielded Sophia from the chandelier's wrath while I bled out on the floor, forgotten in the chaos. I clutched the black ledger tighter, its leather edges digging into my palms like tiny anchors, keeping me from drifting into the numbness that threatened to swallow me whole. The nurse, bless her oblivious soul, had frozen mid-step, her eyes darting between us like she was witnessing a mob hit in slow motion. I'll give you two some privacy," she murmured, slipping out the door with the grace of someone who'd just remembered a pressing appointment with the vending machine. Dante stepped closer, his polished shoes silent on the linoleum floor, but his presence filled the room like smoke from one of his Cuban cigars. He was a towering figure even in vulnerability, his suit jacket slung over one arm, the crisp white shirt beneath marred by faint streaks of soot from the warehouse fire, sleeves rolled up to reveal the fresh bandages wrapping his forearms. The burns, the doctor had said, deep ones, permanent nerve damage, a weakness no Dawn could afford. And yet, here he was, demanding answers from the wife he'd barely acknowledged in 3 years of marriage. 10 points, I repeated, my voice steadier than I felt. It came out like a challenge, laced with the bitterness I'd been swallowing for far too long. I flipped open the ledger to the final page, the one I'd scrawled in the ambulance on the way here, my blood smearing the ink just enough to make the numbers bleed into the paper. Faye deduct 10 points for saving her again while I lay dying. Asterisk, the total glared up at us, 0. His brow furrowed, that signature crease forming between his eyes, the one that appeared when he was calculating a rival's downfall or plotting the next expansion of the Moretti Empire. He reached for the book, but I pulled it back, a small act of defiance that felt monumental in the moment. "This," I said, tapping the page with a trembling finger, "is our marriage, or what was left of it. 100 points to start. Every time you chose her, Isabella, over me, over us," I deducted. Anniversaries missed. Gifts meant for me handed to her. Nights alone while you chased her shadows. And tonight, God, tonight, you threw yourself in front of a falling chandelier for her, Dante. You didn't even look back to see if I was okay." He straightened, his jaw tightening into that granite line I knew so well. "Alara, this is ridiculous. A child's game, points. You are my wife, the mother of—" "Don't," I cut him off. The word sharp as a switchblade. The mention of what we'd lost, what Faye sacrificed without a second thought, twisted the knife deeper. Our child, 2 months along, a secret I'd been nurturing in stolen moments of joy amid the wreckage of our life. The ultrasound photo was tucked in the ledger's back pocket, a grainy black, and white promise now reduced to ash in my memory. The doctors had explained it later, in hushed tones, the blood loss from the glass shard in my side, compounded by the stress, the trauma. But I knew the truth. It was his voice on that speakerphone, cold as a winter grave, denying me the reserve blood because Fay Isabella's condition was critical. Asterisk hers, who walked away with a scratch and a sob story. Dante's eyes flickered, something like regret, pain. It was gone before I could name it, replaced by the mask of the dawn. The warehouse fire, the chandelier. It was O'Malley, a direct hit at our operations. Safia was the target because she is visible. A symbol. I had to protect her. A symbol, I echoed, laughing. A hollow, brittle sound that echoed off the walls. And what am I, Dante? The invisible ink in your ledger, the placeholder until your queen decided to grace you with her presence again. I shoved the book at him this time, forcing his fingers to close around it. Read it. All of it. See how many times you failed us. How many times I forgave you because I thought it was love. Your father's promise to mine, protecting me, building something real. But it was all for her. The architectural firm in that envelope, the one you planned years ago, it is for her, isn't it? Because she admired some suit who ran one. He didn't deny it. He never did. Instead, he sank into the chair beside my bed, the ledger open on his lap like a confession in court. His scarred fingers, reminders of bar fights and bullet grazes, traced the entries, page after page of my quiet unraveling. The first deduction, our wedding night, when he'd taken a call from her and disappeared into the study for hours, leaving me alone in a sea of silk sheets and unspoken vows. Fay deduct 5, for making me feel like a stranger in my own bed. Asterisk the anniversaries blurred into one long montage of absence. Flights to Europe for busyness, that always coincided with her birthdays. Jewelry boxes opened to find pieces I'd never wear because they were sized for her slender fingers. Fay deduct 20, for the diamond necklace that fit her. Not me. Asterisk, the time he'd forgotten my father's deathbed vigil to attend her gallery opening. His tie still bearing the faint perfume of her Chanel number. 5. Fay deduct 15, for smelling like her grief while I buried mine. Asterisk and the smaller cuts, the ones that bled slowest. The way he'd light up at her name, his rare smiles reserved for her stories, her laughs. The family dinners where his captains would toast to the dawn's queen. Their eyes sliding past me like I was the hired help. Fay deduct 3 for letting them call her that in our home. Asterisk by the time he reached the end, 0 stark and final, his face had drained of color. The soot from earlier making him look like a ghost haunting his own life. Ilara, he said, his voice rough, like gravel under boots. This isn't, I never meant. Save it, I whispered, turning my face to the window where the Chicago skyline glittered mockingly under the moon. You meant every point, and now it is 0, I am done. The lawyer's drafting the papers. I'll sign them tomorrow. You can have the house, the cars, the empire. Just give me my freedom. The room fell silent, save for the relentless beep of the heart monitor, mocking the organ in my chest that had finally flatlined for him. I waited for the explosion, the dawn's temper, the commands that bent men to his will. But Dante Moretti, the man who ruled Chicago's underbelly with an iron fist, simply closed the ledger and set it on the nightstand. His hand hovered near mine, as if debating whether to bridge the chasm, then withdrew. I'll fight this, he said finally, standing with the grace of a predator regrouping. Not because of the points, Ilara, because you are my wife, and I need time. Time, the one thing he'd never given me. You had 3 years, I replied, my eyes never leaving the city lights. That is all the time you get. He left without another word, the door clicking shut, like the final period on our story. But as the morphine dripped into my IV, pulling me under, I felt the first stirrings of something new. Not grief, not anger, but power. 0 points meant freedom. And freedom, I realized, was the most dangerous weapon of all. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, the kind of Chicago autumn that seeped into your bones and whispered of endings. I'd refused the pain meds beyond the bare minimum, wanting to feel every ache as a reminder. This was real. I was alive, and I was leaving. My lawyer, Mr. Hargrove, a wiry man in his 50s with wire, rimmed glasses, and a perpetual sheen of sweat, arrived at the hospital just after breakfast. He carried a battered briefcase that looked like it'd seen more mob payoffs than courtrooms, and his handshake was clammy, his eyes darting to the door every few seconds. Mrs. Moretti, Ilara. He corrected himself hastily, glancing at the non-disclosure agreement I'd already signed. I've drafted everything as you requested. Clean break. No alimony, no assets. Just the dissolution and a clause ensuring mutual silence. But, are you certain? The Don, he is not a man who lets go easily. I signed the papers with a flourish, the pen gliding over the crisp legal parchment like a knife through silk. He has let go of me 1,000 times, Mr. Hargrove. This is just me returning the favor. He nodded, packing the documents away with trembling hands. I'll file this afternoon. But word of advice, get out of the city fast. The Morettis have eyes everywhere. His warning lingered as I dressed in the clothes a nurse had fetched from home, a simple black dress that hung looser now, my body still reeling from the loss. No one mentioned the baby. It was as if the universe had erased that chapter too. Dante didn't visit again that morning, though I heard the murmur of his captains outside, their loyalty a cage I'd finally slipped. By noon, I was discharged, the hospital's sterile scent clinging to my skin like a bad memory. A black SUV idled at the curb. Dante's doing, no doubt, with 2 stone-faced guards in the front seats. They didn't speak as they drove me back to the Moretti estate on the outskirts of the city, a sprawling Gothic monstrosity of stone and secrets perched on Lake Michigan's edge. It had been my prison for 3 years, its halls echoing with the ghosts of laughter that was never mine. The guards escorted me inside, their deference a bitter pill. The Don said to wait for him here, one grunted, avoiding my eyes. He'll be back by evening. I nodded, climbing the grand staircase to the master suite. Fei suite, though his side of the bed had grown cold long ago. The room was a study in contrasts, my half minimalist and untouched, his cluttered with ledgers of a different sort, shipments of imported goods, maps of territory lines, a half-empty glass of scotch sweating on the nightstand. Sophia's scent lingered faintly, jasmine and ambition, from the last time she'd visited under the guise of reconciliation. I didn't unpack. Instead, I crossed to the walk, in closet, a cavernous space lined with his tailored suits and my forgotten gowns. Buried in the back, behind a row of his monogrammed shirts, was a small duffel bag I'd prepared months ago, in the quiet hours when hope had flickered but not yet died. Inside, essentials only. Passport in my maiden name, Ilara Vance. Cash from a secret account I'd siphoned. Nothing that would trigger alarms, just enough to start over. A portfolio of my architectural sketches, yellowed but unbroken, and the ultrasound photo creased but intact. As I zipped the bag, my phone buzzed. A burner I'd hidden in the lining. A text from my old professor, Lydia Grant, Fay papers filed. Safe house ready in New York. Train leaves in 2 hours. You are free. Kiddo, asterisk free. The word tasted like rain after drought. I glanced at the clock. 1:15 p.m. Dante would be tied up in meetings, quelling the O'Malley fallout, solidifying alliances. Plenty of time. But as I descended the stairs, duffel slung over my shoulder, the front door burst open. Not Dante, but Marco, his underboss, a bull of a man with a scarred cheek and eyes like chipped flint. He took one look at the bag and blocked the foyer, his meaty arms crossed. Mrs. Moretti, he rumbled, his voice a gravelly warning. Going somewhere. Out, I said simply, meeting his gaze without flinching. 3 years as the Don's wife had taught me that personal errand. He eyed the bag. Then me, a flicker of something. Pity, respect, crossing his face. The boss said, "The boss isn't here," I interrupted, my tone brooking no argument, and last I checked, "You are not him, move, Marco." He hesitated, the weight of loyalty warring with the subtle shift he'd sensed in me, the quiet steel that had replaced the compliant shadow. Finally, he stepped aside, muttering under his breath in Italian, "Dio mio, what the hell is happening to this family?" I brushed past him, the cool lake air hitting my face like a benediction as I stepped into the driveway. No SUV this time. I'd called a rideshare from the hospital, anonymous and untraceable. The driver, a chatty middle-aged woman with a Bronx accent, didn't bat an eye at the luxury estate. "Union Station," she confirmed, pulling away from the gates. "Yes," I replied, sinking into the seat and watching the mansion shrink in the rear view. For the first time in years, my heart didn't ache with longing. It raced with possibility. The train to New York was a blur of steel and speed, the Midwest flattening into a ribbon of green and gray. I sat by the window, ledger in my lap, adding one final note in the margins. Fay plus infinity, for walking away while I still could. *0 wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Lydia met me at Penn Station under the glow of the marquee lights, her silver hair cropped short and her arms open wide. She was the only person who'd ever seen my designs for what they were, visions of spaces that breathed, that healed. Not just buildings, but sanctuaries. "You look like hell, but hell with fire in her eyes," she said, hugging me fiercely. "The safe house is in Brooklyn, cozy, anonymous. And I've got a lead on office space in Soho, small, but yours." We drove through the city that never sleeps, its pulse a stark contrast to Chicago's brooding undercurrent. Brooklyn was a revelation, brownstones with ivy, cloaked facades, streets alive with artists and immigrants, the distant hum of the East River like a lullaby. The safe house was a third-floor walk-up, in a pre-war building, furnished with mismatched thrift finds, but overlooking a pocket park where dog walkers and street musicians converged. That night, alone for the first time in years, I unrolled my blueprints on the scarred oak table. A library for displaced families, a community center with green roofs that fed the neighborhood, structures that said, "Fay, you belong here." * my pencil flew across the paper, lines sharp and unyielding, each stroke erasing a piece of the woman I'd been. But freedom came with shadows. My phone, the burner, buzzed at 3 a.m. "Unknown number," I answered, heart in my throat. "Ilara," Dante's voice, low and laced with something raw, anger, desperation. "Where the fuck are you?" "Safe," I said, no tremor in my tone. "And that is all you need to know." "The papers." Hargrove filed them. "You are really doing this?" "Yes." A pause, heavy as lead. "Goodbye, Dante." I hung up before he could respond, silencing the device and tossing it into a drawer. But sleep evaded me, his words echoing like gunfire in the night. He hadn't begged, hadn't threatened. Just, "You are really doing this." As if the ledger had finally made him see the chasm he'd dug. Dawn broke over the park, painting the leaves in gold. I stepped onto the fire escape with a mug of coffee, breathing in the crisp air. New York was chaos and creation, a city that devoured the weak and exalted the bold. I was ready to be bold. The first client call came a week later, a nonprofit seeking pro bono work for a women's shelter. Lydia had pulled strings, whispering my name in the right ears. "Ilara Vance," she said on the line. "Architect extraordinaire, formerly of the Moretti School of Survival." The meeting was in a cramped midtown cafe, the air thick with espresso and ambition. The director, a no-nonsense woman named Rosa with tattoos peeking from her cuffs, slid my portfolio across the table. "These are revolutionary," she said, eyes gleaming. "Safe spaces that don't feel like cages. We need this. We need Fay. By the end of the month, Vance Designs was born. A one-woman operation in a sunlit loft in Soho, rent paid from my modest savings and Rosa's grant. The space was raw, exposed brick, skylights that flooded the drafting table with light, a corner for a second-hand drafting chair that creaked like an old friend. I hired a part-time assistant, Jamal, a Columbia dropout with a knack for CAD software and a backstory as tangled as mine. Fleeing a cult upstate, rebuilding line by line. Word spread in the undercurrents of the city. A tech startup wanted eco-friendly headquarters. An artist collective dreamed of a gallery that blurred indoor and out. My name, Vance, not Moretti, became synonymous with resilience, with spaces that whispered Fayrise Fay, but Dante's shadow lingered. Envelopes arrived at the loft, unmarked but heavy with intent. Blueprints of the architectural firm he'd planned, annotated in his precise script. Fay for you, always was. Asterisk, a diamond bracelet, the one from our first anniversary, resized to fit my wrist. Fay wear it, or burn it. Asterisk, and once, a single pink rose, Isabella's shade crushed in its vase, petals scattered like accusations. I burned them all in a metal trash bin on the fire escape, the flames dancing like the chandelier's fall. Each ash carried a point redeemed, a chain broken. 3 months in, the O'Malley War escalated. News alerts buzzed on my laptop. Drive, buys in Little Italy, a Moretti warehouse torched, again. Dante's face flashed on the screen during a rare interview, gaunt but unbowed, vowing retribution. "The family endures," he said, his eyes storm dark, staring straight through the camera as if at me. I turned it off, focusing on the shelter renderings. But late that night, as rain lashed the windows, a knock echoed through the loft. Jamal had gone home hours ago. The building was quiet, save for the storm. I opened the door to find Marco, drenched and disheveled, a gash above his eye oozing blood. "Mrs. Alara," he panted, clutching his side. "It is the boss. He has been hit. Bad. O'Malley's men. They got a tip from inside." My blood ran cold. "Where?" "The old distillery he is holding, but he asked for you." I should have said no, should have slammed the door and called the cops. Anonymously, of course. But the Ledger Zero haunted me, a tether I hadn't fully severed. Take me to him. The drive was a nightmare of slick streets and sirens, Marco's SUV weaving through barricades like a ghost. The distillery loomed on the industrial edge, a skeleton of rusted beams and shattered bottles. Now, a war zone. Moretti men swarmed the perimeter, their faces grim under tactical gear. Gunfire popped in the distance, muffled by the rain. They led me to a makeshift command center in the shadows, a trailer rigged with monitors and medkits. Dante lay on a cot, shirt stripped away, his torso a map of bruises and bullet grazes. A field medic worked frantically, stitching a wound high on his shoulder, the metallic tang of blood thick in the air. He looked up as I entered, his face ashen but his eyes alive with that feral intensity. "Ilera," he rasped, waving the medic off. The man hesitated, then retreated, leaving us in the dim glow of a lantern. "You shouldn't be here," I said, my voice barely above the storm's roar. But I crossed to him anyway, kneeling beside the cot, my hands hovering uncertainly over his chest. "Neither should you," he replied, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. "But you are. Why?" "Because Zero wasn't erasure, because even in freedom, echoes lingered." "The ledger," I admitted, pulling it from my coat pocket. I'd carried it like a talisman. "It ended, but you didn't." He took it, his bandaged hand engulfing mine for a fleeting second. I read it all, every deduction. I was blind, Alara, building for her, chasing a ghost, while you were the foundation, the one holding it up. Tears stung my eyes, hot and unwelcome. Too late for that. We lost everything. The baby. His face crumpled, raw grief etching lines I'd never seen. I know, the blood, God, if I could take it back. He reached for me, fingers brushing my cheek. "Isabella was a mistake, a vow I broke long before yours. But you are the only real thing in this empire of lies." Outside, a burst of gunfire shattered the moment, bullets pinging off metal. Marco burst in, gun drawn. "Boss, O'Malley's pushing the east flank. We need you." Dante struggled up, wincing, but his eyes never left mine. "Stay, fight with me, not for the family, for us." I stood, the ledger clutched to my chest, the storm raging in tandem with my heart. 0 points, infinite choices. "Not tonight," I said, backing toward the door. "But maybe, when the war's over." As Marco hustled him out, Dante's voice followed me into the rain. "It will be, for you, it will be." I slipped away in the chaos, hailing a cab back to Brooklyn, the city's lights blurring through wet lashes. The ledger was heavier now, not with deductions, but with possibility. The war wasn't just O'Malley's, it was mine, and for the first time, I was armed. The rain had stopped by the time I reached the loft, but the storm inside me raged on, a tempest of what ifs and half. Truths, Dante's words echoed like distant thunder. Asterisk, you are the only real thing, Faye, but I knew better than to trust a Don's confession in the heat of battle. Men like him wielded words as weapons, sharp and fleeting, designed to disarm before the strike. I'd been disarmed enough. Jamal was waiting up, sprawled on the threadbare couch with a laptop balanced on his knees, his locks tied back in a haphazard bun. The kid, barely 22, had become my unwitting confidant over late night drafting sessions, his easy humor a balm against the isolation. "Boss lady returns," he said, not looking up from the screen. "You look like you just brokered peace with the devil, rough night?" I dropped the duffel by the door, shedding my soaked coat like a skin. Something like that. The loft smelled of takeout lo mein and fresh printer ink, a far cry from the Moretti estate's polished opulence. It was home, though, raw and mine. He closed the laptop, eyeing me with that sharp intuition that made him invaluable. "Spill, or don't. But if it is mob drama, I want details for the screenplay I am pretending to write." I laughed. A genuine sound that surprised us both, and collapsed into the armchair opposite him. It is always mob drama, but tonight, I saw him. Dante bleeding out in some god-forsaken distillery, begging me to stay. Jamal whistled low. "The Don himself, damn Alara, that is heat. So, what'd you do? Slap him with the divorce papers and moonwalk out. Close." I pulled the ledger from my pocket, its leather damp but intact. "Told him the war ends for us, maybe." He leaned forward. Elbows on knees, his brown eyes serious beneath the playfulness. "Look, I ain't one to pry. Okay, I am. But you deserve the fairy tale, not the blood feud. This city's got enough princes in suits. Find one who builds castles, not bombs them." His words landed like seeds in fertile soil. Jamal didn't know the half of it. The child we'd lost, the empire built on my silence. But he saw the woman I was becoming. Not the dutiful wife, but the architect, the survivor. The next weeks blurred into a rhythm of creation and caution. Vance Designs gained traction. The Women's Shelter Project secured funding from a feminist collective, their check arriving with a note, "Fay for women who design their own escapes." I hired a second assistant, Sophia, a fiery Puerto Rican intern from Pratt with a portfolio of sustainable urban farms, and we turned the loft into a hive. Sketch pads littered every surface, 3D models whirred on screens, coffee brewed in endless pots. Clients trickled in, a bookstore owner wanting nooks for whispered romances, a tech bro dreaming of glass, walled innovation hubs. But New York had eyes, and Moretti money bought the best. Whispers reached me through Lydia, Dante's men sniffing around permits offices. Donations to city council members who greenlit my builds a little too fast. He was protecting me, in his way clearing paths without stepping on them, or controlling them. Isabella's shadow loomed larger. A glossy magazine arrived in my mail slot, unaddressed, Fay Chicago's new power couple. Sofia Rossi's culinary empire blooms with Moretti backing. Asterisk photos of her grand opening, Dante at her side in that restaurant, the one meant for our anniversary. His arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder, the chandelier repaired, gleaming mockingly overhead. The article gushed about their rekindled flame, how he'd invested millions post-fire, turning her bistro into a chain. Fay a love story forged in flames, asterisk it cooed. I tore it to shreds, the confetti scattering like my shattered illusions. But the knife twist came later, in a voicemail from an unknown number. Her voice, smooth as poisoned honey. "Ilara, darling. Dante mentioned your little hobby? Architecture? Charming. But play in the kiddie pool, won't you? The deep end's for those who can swim with sharks?" Sharks. She'd always been one, gliding through his world on charm and connections. Her marriage to that commoner, a brief detour before circling back to the throne. But now, with me gone, she was queen in truth. Or so she thought. The retaliation started small, a rival firm undercutting my bids. Anonymous tips to inspectors finding code violations in my initial renders. Then, bolder, a brick through the loft window at 2 a.m., glass shattering like the chandelier, a note tied with twine, Fayway. For good. Asterisk Sophia wanted to call the cops. Jamal advocated for a bat and bravado. I chose strategy. "It is Sophia," I told them over emergency pizza, the board-up tarp flapping in the breeze. Or her proxies. Dante's empire has thorns, and she is pruning the competition. Jamal's eyes lit. So we fight fire with blueprints. Hit her where it hurts, the narrative. By dawn, we had a plan. Not vengeance, but visibility. I leaked the shelter project to a local blog. Fay from mob wife to master builder, Ilara Vance redefines refuge. Asterisk the piece went viral in niche circles. Architects praising the adaptive reuse, women's groups rallying donations, even a podcast inviting me on. Faithy Don's ex designing freedom one brick at a time. Asterisk, the backlash was swift. Dante called that afternoon, his number spoofed but unmistakable. Ilara, what the hell? The press. It is painting me as the villain. O'Malley's using it, saying, I am distracted, weak. Good, I shot back, sketching furiously on a napkin. Maybe it'll force you to focus on your queen instead of haunting my builds. A pause heavy with unspoken storms. Isabella had nothing to do with the brick. That was O'Malley testing boundaries, but the article. It mentions the ledger. How? I froze, pencil midline. I'd burned the magazine, but the podcast, had I slipped? Does it matter? You built this, Dante, live in it. Ilara. Number, I hung up, heart pounding. But the spark Jamal mentioned, it was ablaze now. The shelter groundbreaking was a triumph, gray skies parting for sun, Rosa's speech invoking faith sanctuaries for the unseen asterisk donors toasting with sparkling cider. I wore a hard hat with Vance stenciled in gold, my first public smile in years genuine. Cameras flashed, hands shook mine. For a moment I was seen, not as the Don's wife, but as Ilara Vance. Creator, then, the call, Marco, voice tight. He is down, Ilara, shot in the ambush, critical. The world tilted. I handed the shovel to Sophia, mumbling excuses, and fled to the SUV Marco had waiting. Faye, how did he know? Asterisk, the drive to the private airstrip was silent, rain resuming as if the city wept. The Moretti jet idled on the tarmac, a sleek black beast, ready to devour distance. I boarded without a word, the cabin opulent and empty, save for a single leather seat and a glass of water, ice melting like my resolve. As we taxied, I pulled out the ledger, adding a line in red ink, feign deduct, nothing, for making me care again. Asterisk Chicago greeted me with sleet and secrecy, the jet landing under cover of night. A convoy whisked me to the family compound, a fortified bunker disguised as a lakeside villa, guards patrolling like wolves. The air smelled of pine and gun oil, the halls lined with portraits of stern Moretti patriarchs, glaring judgment. Dante's room was a vault of medical machinery, the Don reduced to tubes and monitors, his broad chest rising shallowly under crisp sheets. Sophia sat vigil, her red dress a slash of color against the white, her hand on his like a claim. She looked up as I entered, eyes narrowing to slits. You, she hissed, rising like a cobra. This is your fault, stirring up the press, weakening him when he needs strength. Strength? I echoed, stepping closer, the ledger a shield in my hand. Like denying a dying woman blood for your scratches. Like sabotaging my windows because I dared to build without his shadow. Her laugh was a tinkling bell, false as her concern. Duty, darling. He married you for your father. But me, I am his heart, always was. The monitors beeped erratically, Dante stirred, eyes fluttering open. Ilara, he croaked, voice a rasp through the oxygen mask. His hand twitched toward me, ignoring hers. Isabella's face twisted, jealousy, raw and ugly. She snatched the IV line, yanking it free in a fit of rage. See, even now he... Alarms wailed. Nurses burst in, shoving her aside as chaos erupted. I lunged for the call button, but Dante's eyes locked on mine, pleading. Stay, he mouthed. Security dragged Sophia out, her screams echoing down the hall. You'll regret this, Ilara. The O'Malleys will eat you alive. As the room stabilized, Dante's hand found mine, weak but warm. She planned it, the tip to O'Malley for control. Betrayal layered on betrayal. I squeezed his fingers, the ledger forgotten on the bed. Then end it. For good, he nodded, exhaustion claiming him. For you, I will. I stayed through the night, vigil turning to vigilante in my mind. By morning, whispers spread. Sophia arrested for conspiracy. Her grand opening, a front for laundering. Dante stabilized, his empire fracturing but reforming. Legitimate arms rising from the ashes. The architectural firm rebranded under my name. 0 points, infinite rebuilds. The sterile beep of monitors became my lullaby that night, a mechanical heartbeat syncing with the storm outside. Dante slept fitfully, his face slack in repose. The Don's mask stripped away to reveal the man beneath, vulnerable, scarred, human. I sat in the armchair they'd wheeled in for me, the ledger open on my lap like a Bible of our failures. Sophia's arrest had sent shockwaves through the compound. Captains paced the halls, phones glued to ears, plotting her downfall with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. She'd been the spider in the web spinning lies to O'Malley for leverage, her love for Dante, a currency she'd cashed in for power. Marco brought coffee at dawn, black and bitter. His gash stitched but his eyes haunted. "She is singing like a canary," he said, handing me a mug. Names, dates, the works. Boss was blind to it. We all were. "Not all," I murmured, stirring in sugar I didn't need. "Some of us saw the threads." He nodded, respect in his gaze, a far cry from the pitying looks of old. "You are staying, for now." The words felt like a concession, but they were strategy. Dante needed me, not as wife, but as witness. To see if Zero could become something new. The days blurred into a vigil of IV drips and whispered confessions. Dante woke in fits, his voice weak but insistent, pulling me into conversations we'd avoided for years. "The firm," he said one afternoon, sunlight slanting through bulletproof glass. "Vance Designs. I saw the article. It is brilliant, Alara like you." I adjusted his pillow, avoiding his eyes. "It is mine, not an extension of Moretti Inc." He caught my wrist, gentle, despite the bandages. "I know. That is why I transferred the shares, anonymously. Seed money, no strings." I pulled away, heart twisting. Why guilt? "Love," he said simply, the word hanging like smoke. "Late, I know, but real. Love," the ledger mocked it, pages of deductions proving otherwise. But as I flipped through it that night, alone in the guest wing, I saw patterns I'd missed. The times he'd left roses on my drafting table, unsigned, the anonymous donor to my father's medical fund. Small deposits, invisible acts. Fade deduct 3 for the necklace that fit her. Asterisk. But what if it had been resized for me, and I'd been too hurt to try? Doubt crept in, a vine choking the resolve I'd built in New York. Sophia texted updates, the shelter on track, a new client, a museum curator, raving about my emotional architecture. Jamal sent memes. Fate and drama queen strikes again, asterisk laughter through tears. Isabella's trial was a spectacle. Fast, tracked by Moretti influence. I testified remotely, my deposition a litany of her whispers, her threats. She said I was duty. I told the prosecutor, voice steady over video link. But she was the one pulling strings for blood money. The courtroom feed showed her breakdown. Perfect makeup smudged, screams of, "He loves me." As bailiffs dragged her away, Dante watched from his hospital bed, his hand finding mine again. "It is over," he whispered. "She can't hurt us anymore." As the word lingered, a question mark. Discharge came a week later. Dante wheeled out under guard, his frame still gaunt, but his eyes fierce. The convoy to the estate was armored. Snipers on rooftops, but the air felt lighter. O'Malley suing for peace, territories redrawn without her poison. He insisted on the study for our talk. The room I'd once seen as her shrine now cleared. The Ming vase gone. The yacht photo burned, the silver pendant melted down for. Something new. He gestured to the desk, where a velvet box waited. "Open it," he said, voice rough from disuse. Inside, a key fob for a sleek hybrid SUV practical. Mine and a blueprint, unrolled. Not his firm's grand plans, but my shelter, refined with engineering notes in his hand. I studied, he admitted, a sheepish smile cracking the dawn. Nights, when you slept, wanted to understand. Tears pricked. Why now? Because Zero woke me. The ledger. It was your map out. I want to earn my way back in. I traced the lines, our hands overlapping. It is not points, Dante. It is trust. Rebuild that, maybe. The rebuilding started small. Dinners without captains, just us. Pasta he cooked, one-handed, stories of his pre-dawn days. A boy from Sicily dreaming of skylines, not syndicates. He visited the New York site via video, critiquing gently. Stronger beams here, for the women carrying the world. Isabella's empire crumbled. Restaurants shuttered for laundering, her queen crown tarnished. She wrote from jail, letters smuggled, pleading. He was mine first. You'll always be second. Asterisk, I burned them. Ashes to wind. But fractures lingered, a late night call from Rosa. Funding pulled, anonymous donor pulling strings. Dante's face darkened when I told him, O'Malley remnants I'll handle. No, I said firm. We handle together. The compromise a joint op, his intel, my designs for a safe house network. Borders blurred, but so did lines. One night, over scotch in the study, his hand brushed mine, intentional. Heat flared, old embers igniting. Ilara, he murmured, pulling me close. Let me show you. The kiss was fire, hungry, apologetic, promising. We tumbled to the rug, bandages be damned, bodies remembering what hearts had forgotten. It wasn't reconciliation, it was reclamation. Morning brought clarity. The ledger closed, but the book open. Stay, he said, tracing my spine. Build with me. In Chicago, or New York, wherever you design. I chose both. Dual cities, dual lives. The shelter ribbon, cutting was ours. Him in a suit sans bloodstains, me in hard hat. Scissors snipping red tape. Cameras flashed, headlines shifted. Faye Moretti's redemption, from underworld to uplift. Asterisk 0 to hero. Vows fractured but reforged stronger. Grief doesn't announce itself, it seeps in like fog off the lake, muffling sounds and blurring edges until you are lost in it. 3 months after the shooting, with Sophia's trial dust settling and Vance Design's portfolio swelling, the echo of our lost child hit me like a rogue wave. It started innocently. A client meeting at a playground, adjacent cafe, mothers pushing swings while their little ones laughed, carefree. The sound pierced, a reminder of the heartbeat I'd felt once, faint but fierce, in the quiet of a doctor's office. I excused myself, fleeing to the restroom, where the mirror showed a woman put together on the surface, tailored blazer, hair in a neat chignon, eyes red, rimmed. The ledger stayed in New York, but its ghost followed, Faduct Infinity, for the life you took without knowing. Asterisk Dante noticed that night, back in Chicago for a board meeting at the firm. Faye firm now, rebranded Moretti. Vance Architects. He was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, attempting risotto without burning it. A domesticity that still felt like role play. Ilara, you've been quiet. I set down the wine glass, the ruby liquid swirling like blood. The baby today. His face shuddered, the Don's mask slipping back. He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling me into his chest, his heartbeat steady against my ear. I think about it every day. What I did, what I said on that phone, if I could. You can't. The words were sharp, but my arms wrapped around him anyway, clinging to the warmth. But we can remember, honor it. We started small, a donation to a fertility clinic in the child's name, anonymous, but ours. A corner in the women's shelter, a nursery with soft lights and soundproof walls for mothers rebuilding. Little Vance, Dante called it, his voice thick when he signed the check. But echoes amplified. Sophia's letters turned venomous from prison. Faye, you think you won. He mourned me while you played house. That baby collateral for his guilt. Asterisk, I stopped reading them, but the poison lingered, stirring doubts. Was our rebuild genuine, or guilt? Gilded. The crisis crested at a Gala Moretti charity event. Black, tie opulence in a Gold Coast ballroom. Dante in tux, me in emerald silk that hugged curves reclaimed through yoga and resolve. We danced. His hand at my waist, possessive yet tender. Whispers of future projects mingling with, I love yous then. A face from the past, Tommy O'Malley truce, wary but smirking, glass in hand. Mrs. Moretti, heard about the little loss, tough break. Word is, the Don's blood reserves were prioritized. Dante tensed, but I stepped forward, smile steel. Mr. O'Malley, heard about your latest plea deal, tough break. Word is, snitches get stitches. Ladder rippled, he slunk away, but the seed was planted. That night, in the penthouse suite, I confronted Dante. Was it just guilt? The firm, the baby donation, amends for her? He stripped off the tie, vulnerability raw. At first, yes, guilt chained me to her memory. But you freed me. The child, our child, was the wake-up. I see now what I almost lost twice. We made love then, slow and searching, bodies mapping forgiveness. But dawn brought a package, ultrasound from Sophia's commoner ex, claiming paternity fraud. Hers, not ours. A bluff. DNA disproved it, but the echo roared. We faced it together. Therapy sessions in a neutral therapist's office, Dante's walls crumbling as he admitted the vow to my father was duty turned devotion. I proposed because I had to. I stayed because I wanted to. With her, it was fire, destructive. With you, it is foundation. The nursery opened to fanfare, tiny fists clutching mobiles, mother's eyes shining. I held a stranger's baby, its weight a balm, and whispered to the air, "We're okay now." Echoes faded, not gone, but harmonized, the ledger. Donated to the shelter, as a journal for women tallying their worth. Isabella's prison break was theatrical. A bribed guard, a smuggled phone, coordinates to a safe house in the Badlands. Word reached Dante at 4 a.m., his phone shattering the silence of our bed. "She is out," he growled, already dressing, gun holstered like an old friend. I sat up, sheets pooling. "Let her run, you've won." Number his eyes met mine. Storm, dark. She'll come for you, always has. The gambit unfolded like chess, her moves telegraphed through underworld chatter. Rallies with ex-captains, whispers of a coup. She aimed to reclaim the throne, painting Dante as softened by the placeholder wife. We countered strategically. I returned to Chicago full-time. The firm, our war room, blueprints doubled as battle plans. Secure perimeters disguised as luxury condos. Surveillance in smart home tech. Dante trained me in basics, lockpicks, evasion routes, the cold click of a safety. "You are not a damsel," he said one evening in the range, handing me a Glock. Never were. The shot rang true, target splintered. Empowerment surged, not fear, but fire. Her first strike, a car bomb at the firm, timed for our client lunch. We evacuated in time, but the blast scarred the lobby, glass like diamonds in the dust. Sophia's manifesto went viral on dark web forums. Faithe, Dawn's puppet strings cut. The Queen returns. Asterisk Dante's response. A press conference, arm around me. Moretti Vance stands. For family, for future. Public adored the power duo, but privately, tension simmered. "She is using our story," I fumed, pacing the study, twisting it, then rewrite it. He pulled me close. With me. The endgame, her safehouse raid, Dante's men closing in. I insisted on going. Eyes in the sky via drone feed. She was cornered in a dusty motel, red dress, tattered, eyes wild. "Alara," she sneered through the screen. "Come to gloat? Number to end it." Dante's voice, calm, surrender, mercy for old times. She laughed, gun to temple. "Mercy, you chose her, the nothing girl." "You are wrong," he said. "I chose me, us." Her finger tightened. I held my breath, but the shot was outward. Into the wall, gun tossed. Surrender. Trial 2, life sentence, no parole, her gambit lost. In the aftermath, we honeymooned. Not Maldives glamour, but a road trip to my father's grave. Blueprints spread on the hood of the SUV. "Vow renewed?" Dante asked, ring glinting, new hours. "Zero regrets," I said, kissing him under stars. With Sophia caged, the empire stabilized, legitimate ventures booming, the firm breaking ground on eco-towers that touched clouds. But foundations crack under weight, ours tested in quiet ways. Dante's nightmares, sweats of warehouse fires, chandelier crashes, mine echoes of loss, ledgers tallying unseen wounds. We built deliberately, couples weekends in the Smokies, no phones, just hikes and heart to hearts. "I was afraid," he admitted by campfire, voice low, "of loving you more, losing control. And I was afraid of being enough," I confessed, his head in my lap. "But we are." The pregnancy test. Positive, 6 months, post-gambit, was terror and joy intertwined. Ultrasounds in private clinics, hands clasped over the curve. "A builder," Dante murmured at the first kick. "Like their mom." Challenges arose. Media scrutiny, old allies questioning the soft dawn. A rival bid war for a waterfront project, dirty tricks, bribes exposed. We fought side by side, my designs winning on merit, his muscle ensuring fair play. Birthday, a boy Alexander Vance Moretti, wailing into dawn. Dante cried, unashamed, the dawn reduced to dad. Our foundation, he whispered, placing him in my arms. Years folded, Alex's first steps in the firm lobby, blueprints as toys. A daughter, Sophia, after my assistant, with eyes like storms. The ledger framed in the nursery, 0 bold. A reminder from debt to destiny, 10 years on, Vance, Moretti Towers, Grace skylines, Chicago spires, New York lofts, global sanctuaries. Dante Silver at temples, retired the gun for gavels, our boardrooms battlegrounds of ideas. Alex, architect, in training, sketches beside me, Sophia, budding chef. Dreams of fusion empires minus the blood, anniversaries. No points, just presence. A vow renewal on our first build's roof, city at feet. Infinite, Dante toasts, ring to ring. No end to us. Isabella, a faded echo, paroled to obscurity, her gambit legend in whispers. 0 was freedom, infinity, our forever. The end.